Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Agamjeet Dang, the Chief Operating Officer, Executive Access India, and your host for tonight. A very warm welcome to all our audience. Doing business has never been more challenging than before. As if months preceding the COVID-19 crisis was not tough enough, the post-COVID order brings complexity at a whole new level altogether. How organizations, businesses, and leaders emerge out of this crisis will arguably be the biggest challenge of our times. Now, as a firm with 25 years of history and over 2,400 leadership facilitations to our name, we've seen quite a few business cycles. We've seen leaders being created and honed and have contributed in quite a few stellar stories ourselves. While in our profession, we get to meet a lot of successful leaders, there are a few who make an indelible mark on your mind and stand out as truly remarkable ones. We are privileged to have one such leader amongst us who has made it big and is a role model for a lot of us out here. Please join me in welcoming our speaker of the day as part of the HardTalk with Manoj Kohli leadership series, Mr. Manoj Kohli, the country head India SoftBank. Manoj, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you.
Now, friends, placing bold bets and backing the future has been Manoj's philosophy all along. He's a man who knows better than anyone on how to build businesses in challenging times. His long, illustrious career in an intensely competitive telecom sector at Bharti Airtel and others in the past is invaluable to the 20-odd portfolio companies at SoftBank Group and SoftBank Vision Fund in India. For telecom czar Mr. Sunil Bharti Mittal, he was always Mr. Dependable, whether the job involved expanding Airtel's network in India as the managing director or replicating the low-cost network model in over 20 countries of Africa. As the CEO and MD of Bharti Airtel, his key contribution was building Airtel as the number 3 telco player in the world, from 2 million subscribers to over 400 million customers. He led Bharti Airtel's India operations for a 100x scale-up before moving to international responsibility for 20 countries. A balanced risk taker, he got the group to take the plunge in an uncharted area of renewable energy, setting up operations from scratch in SB Energy in collaboration with SoftBank. With over 4 decades of experience equally divided between manufacturing and telecom sectors, Manoj has worked closely with leading MNCs and has worked across geographies spanning US, Europe, China, Japan, and India, and of course, various African countries. He's also a member of the Academic Council of Faculty of Management Studies and has been awarded the Best Alumni Award by Sri Ram College of Commerce, Delhi University. A very warm welcome to you, Manoj, and we all eagerly looking forward to hearing your pearls of wisdom today. Before I hand over the conversation, I would like to introduce my moderator and co-host for the afternoon, our Managing Director, Ronesh Puri. An advocate and a banker himself before he ventured into search, Ronesh has over 25 years of experience and has placed over 600 candidates himself, including over 100 CEOs and board level searches. He successfully facilitated numerous leadership transitions in sectors like financial services, education, technology, real estate, consumer, and industrial. Ronesh actively mentors and coaches a number of leaders and CEOs on talent strategy, resource management, and business performance. Welcome, Ronesh. And before I hand over to you, just a couple of quick guidelines for our audience today. For those who have logged in from the mobile devices, please swipe left and right to see the speaker and the moderator. Secondly, there is a Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. Please feel free to start sharing your questions and we will try and answer them towards the second half of the webinar. Over to you, Ronesh, to take the discussion forward with Manoj.
Thank you very much, Agam, for your kind words and introduction. When you sit with a friend like Manoj, you feel both humbled and excited. And as a friend and a well-wisher, Manoj, it's both an honor and a privilege to have this opportunity to pick your brains. And friends, believe me, he is very gifted. God has been exceedingly kind on him. And his bandwidth, his passion, his energy, and his humility, they just overwhelm you. Thank you very much, Manoj, for sparing the time. Welcome to all the participants who have logged in. I can assure you of one thing, that there will be a lot of takeaways from this webinar. It's a person like Manoj, with his deep thinking, you're sure to have lot of food for thought. Well, my journey with Manoj began about 20 years back. I don't know, Manoj, whether you remember or not. but I distinctly do. I had pitched in Manoj in Escotil when he was heading it, made a pitch, 1 month went by, and then in a Mumbai airport, late in the night, I see someone tap me on the back, and that was Manoj. And he said, Ronesh, the flight, are you on the 8:30 flight? I said, yes, I am. And he said, well, the flight is delayed by 2 hours. There's another flight which is going to take off in half an hour. See if you can board the flight. I know there are very few seats on. I managed to get one. But if you're on the flight, I will give you a search. It was a challenge. I was about 18th on the line. And I said, goodness gracious me, what the hell do I do? And the person announced there are 3 seats going. So I had a loyalty card of Jet Airways. It was a blue one. And I just shot it on top of my voice. And I said, friends, does this card count for anything? Does it have anything, or should I put it in a dustbin? Suddenly I get a call from there, sir, please walk in. And they gave me the seat. I boarded the flight and Manoj was there smiling at me. And he said, you managed? I said, yes, God has been kind. I managed. I forgot about it. I never thought he would remember the promise that he had made. A lot of people do. 1 month after that, I get a call from Manoj and he says, Ronesh, I want to see you. Can you come across to my office at 4 p.m.? I have something to discuss with you. I said, of course, it'll be a pleasure and honor. And I went there. I didn't know Manoj would remember that promise. To be honest with you, I also did not. And as I walked into the office, the first thing he says, Ronesh, I'm giving you a search. That is Manoj. That is, friends, Manoj for you. He never forgets a commitment and a promise he has made. Such men are rare, but he is truly, truly gifted. Manoj, I can't tell you the number of people who have written to us, who you have actually mentored, whose career you have shaped. And they said, we never really had a leader and a boss like Manoj. All that we are today is because of him. I was overwhelmed. So this is Manoj for you. But without further ado, when you have somebody of his bandwidth in front of you, I should be doing the talking. I should be listening, because with Manoj, there will be a lot to take home. So I like to start with picking your brain. The world has changed. None of the soothsayers, astrologers, analysts were able to predict what the world is today. Nobody actually warned us. Bill Gates referred to it, but not the kind of situation that we are facing today. It's unprecedented. What do you think, Manoj, is the future of business in India? What do you think business should be doing? Where are the opportunities lying? And what do you think, say, business leaders should focus on?
Thank you, Ronesh. I'm full of gratitude to you and to Agam to invite me today. I feel good that I've got a lot of friends and colleagues who are listening to me. 2 things I agree with you of all what you said. One, that God is always kind to good people, and I have full faith in that. And second, that promises are made to be kept. That's very, very important characteristic of any good leader. If promises are made, you have to keep them. Anyway, coming back to the theme of today, rebooting is a great opportunity. A lot of people think that rebooting is a threat or a challenge. Yes, it's a challenge, but it's opportunity in a much bigger way. So therefore, I always look at the opportunity. I always look at the glass half full. And that is the only way to look at life. That is the only way to look at future. The present crisis, as we all know, is global. It's not about my company or my country, it's global. Secondly, it is unprecedented across last 1 century. There have been many crises, but not this kind of crisis, where the entire global economy falls by 4-5%. And many countries actually more than 4-5%. I feel that the biggest opportunity is with the leaders who have to convert this threat into a great positive future for their respective companies. And I think that is what they're responsible for. They are not maintenance managers. They are managers of growth and managers of profitability. So what is the leadership? Let me start with that, Ronesh, because that is one thing you asked. What is the leadership characteristic which is required as on date, which will bring the companies or businesses back to normal growth or faster growth? Number one is that in this period, which could be 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, it's difficult to predict, leadership has to show a lot of empathy. And if leaders are not empathetic with good talent will leave them. So I feel empathy will be the biggest positive stroke leaders can bring in these tough times. Second thing is that while building a new model or new strategy, leaders are expected to show a lot of agility and flexibility, because nothing is constant. Everything is changing. Either has changed or will change. So therefore, agility and flexibility is the biggest characteristic leaders have to have, and also have all colleagues to imbibe. That is a tougher job. I mean, you can have a quality yourself personally, but for you to get that to be imbibed by thousands of other people outside you is not easy. Third thing, which is also very important, is humility and authenticity. Leaders who are humble are followed much more. Leaders who are authentic will be followed much more in future. You will ask me why. You know, if you go back 20, 30, 40 years back when I started my career, control was the way management controlled the company or the business or the people. Now that control doesn't work. Influence works, positive influence, positive inspiration. And if it is inspiration, then authenticity inspires. Nothing else inspires. And young people, I've got 2 young children. I know they only give their vote of confidence to authentic people. Last but not the least, leadership is about courage. Courage to shed old practices. Courage to shed trained incapacities, which every company has, every business has, which have been trained over the last 10, 20 years. And you are still holding on to it as if that is the mantra. That is not the mantra now. So leaders who have courage to shed these old mindsets will win, and leaders who hesitate or resist change will lose. And by the way, change is not painful. The resistance to change is painful.
True.
That's very important. Now, coming to rebooting specifically, I feel there are 5 kinds of rebooting we have to do as leaders. Number one is that the business model of every business, every company has to change. And that's based on the new consumer behavior. The consumer of December 2019 and consumer of December 2020 will be entirely different. Because now the consumer is digital. The digital behavior of the consumer will be the huge difference within 12 months. And if the business model doesn't change accordingly, then those companies will fall behind. So that is the first thing. The new strategic direction is based on a new business model and new business model is based on new consumer behavior. Second thing is about innovation in every company. Now, earlier also, we had new product development, new features development, etc. But when I say innovation, I'm talking of the entire organization. Entire organization embracing innovation as a culture, whether it's business model innovation. Like you remember Airtel, we did an innovation in our business model, which was outsourcing. Nobody was doing it in the world, but we did it, we had a courage, and luckily it clicked. So innovation in every way, whether it's business model, whether it's a strategy, whether it's products, services, features, everything, the way we do business. So that actually has to be now injected as a DNA. The third aspect is aspect of frugality. One thing these last 6 months have taught us is that wastage is really criminal. You can't waste. The cash is really king. Difficult to get cash, difficult to get customers and revenues. And if you waste on top of that, then I think you are really being harmful to the company's interest. Therefore, frugality has to be adopted because customer will not pay you for wastage. Too, which is also very important, is financial fitness. Just like human body needs physical fitness, human mind needs yoga, balance. Similarly, a company or a business needs financial fitness, which means certain health of profitability, certain cash flows are important. It's very clear now that if the business doesn't have that financial fitness, then for it to sustain will be difficult. There are many businesses which are over leveraged, they have too much debt, so there is a problem. You can't do that. You can't mismanage the financials. The fitness is very, very important. Last but not the least, high performance work culture. Now, many companies still suffer from weak culture. Many companies still suffer from weak performance. Many companies still suffer from ethical issues. Now, these issues will not be acceptable in the future. High performance and high ethics, both are important. And companies will have strong mandate. Leadership will have strong mandate to undertake these because it's only high performance culture which will make or break the future of the company. So these are the 5, I'll say, areas for leadership to reboot and redo the company's future. And if leadership does it in a balanced way, in a very sustainable way, while carrying all the team members along, then success will be much bigger than the past. Let me also talk about India now, because I think many colleagues are worried about Indian economy that will drop more than 4%. What will happen next year? I believe that next year will come back to 6 to 7%, because frankly, the economy is based on domestic consumption. Our domestic consumption is strong. Plus, there are 5 areas where Government of India and industry both are planning. Number 1, the benefits of oil cost reduction will be very high in India. As you know, we import 110 billion or maybe $120 billion a year. Therefore, that major saving will be great for India. Second is the focus on manufacturing. We are strong in agriculture, we are strong in service sector, but definitely manufacturing is a weak area. And if that fulfills now, and luckily we are very good at it. Our auto components, for example, are 6 Sigma quality. We export all over the world. So we are good at it. And I believe that government finally has understood that manufacturing has to bring in a lot of employment for this country. The third area is area of agriculture. Agriculture luckily is doing very well. This year monsoon is good. Agriculture has had record crops this year. But productivity, efficiency, automation is still to come. So maybe we can have a second green revolution in agriculture, not in terms of only increasing the production, but improving the productivity and bringing in automation there, which is not there. The fourth area is area of infrastructure. Luckily, government has initiated a $1.4 trillion worth infrastructure development plan for next 5 years. And 60% is being invested by government, 40 by multinationals or private sector. And this will be huge. This will be roads, ports, airports, many infrastructure areas, which actually India needs because our physical infrastructure is still not as strong as it should be. Last but not the least, our biggest strength is software. Our biggest strength of Indian mind. And I remember going to villages and talking to young boys and girls at 10, 12 years of age and asking them, what do you want to become? No, I want to become a programmer. I want to become a systems engineer. I want to, fantastic, which country does this happen? So we are lucky that our children want to be in software, and that is our strength. So AI, machine learning, software development, all the service sector, that is where we can become much stronger, and we can be the software capital of the world. Today we are strong, but I think we can double up. We can double up our strength and become the foundation for all software development across the world. So these are great opportunities in the next 5 to 10 years, which I'm sure we will take. Let me conclude by saying that leadership is the key. Rebooting will happen if leadership is smart, leadership is strong. Otherwise, rebooting will become difficult for those companies where leadership is weak. New strategic direction has to be taken. New business models have to be adopted. New performance culture has to be adopted. And if that happens, I'm sure those companies and businesses will not only reboot, but also come back with a bang, come back with much bigger performance, much bigger success in the few years to come. That's all I wanted to say, Ronesh. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Manoj. You mentioned that consumer behavior will change, Manoj, possibly both in the short term and long term. So what would you do if you were a CEO? How would you anticipate that, and what are 2-3 things from your perspective that the company should especially be focusing on in today's time?
So one is the digitization of the business, end-to-end digitization of the business. A lot of companies have been hesitating or doing partial digitization in the businesses, which won't work now. So companies have to do end-to-end, which means from the vendor to the consumer, end-to-end digitization has to take place. The second thing is reskilling of the entire staff, entire vendors staff, entire dealer staff, consumer, huge reskilling, huge re-education has to take place. Because if you're transforming, it is not a simple change, it is a transformation from a paper economy or a physical economy to a digitized economy, or to a digitized business. And I think that is the leadership challenge which has to be accomplished. Till now, they were doing it through consultants, they were doing it partially, okay, let's do digitized supply chain, let's digitize sales. You can't do this now. It can't be in part. It has to be end to end, it has to be whole. And it has to be done by management, not by consultants.
And you need to be very agile, because one of the opportunities, correct me if I'm wrong, could be, and you've referred to that, would be innovation. How do you get an organization to be more innovative? And how do you get them to be up in the market much faster? Because the consumer behavior and needs are ever changing and will change even more now.
Now, this is a tough one, let me tell you. Because at Airtel, we did that. At SoftBank, we are doing it. But it's a tough one. One, the culture has to be very open, very transparent, very flexible. First is the culture itself. If the culture is closed, if the culture is rigid, forget innovation. It can't happen. Number two, leadership has to have courage to empower staff, empower employees. And if you don't have courage, again, you can forget innovation. Third, you need to treat experiments kindly. You need to treat mistakes kindly. You can't be violent if somebody makes a mistake. You need to be encouraging. You need to be, large-hearted. If it's a genuine experiment, and somebody tried to do something new genuinely, you have to look at future. You can't just try to get stuck by that problem. At Airtel, we had two rules of the game. One, mistake is fine, but don't repeat it. And secondly, the day you find out the mistake, cut the cost on the same day. And if you do that, you're fine. So the point I'm trying to make is that innovation as a culture is very difficult. Innovation of a product, trying to do something new, is easy. But cultural innovation is very difficult because you need to really change the environment. If people can't be natural, if people can't be spontaneous, then how will they be innovative?
Correct. But at the same time, there will be a challenge to manage productivity in this new norm. How do you manage that, and how do you ensure that you have a high performance culture? It's going to be far more difficult to get that.
Productivity will dramatically improve because digitization is equivalent to 2x, 3x, 4x productivity, much higher productivity. Because digitization gives you precision, it gives you speed, it gives you quality, and it gives you transparency. So there is no way that productivity won't improve. Yes, initially it may improve slowly, but as you complete the digitization, it will improve much faster. So I'm not too worried about productivity. I think that is a side effect of digitization.
One more question on people, and you hire very astutely. I've had the opportunity of working with you. I know that you pick winners. Now the ecosystem has changed. Would you look for a different skill set, different DNA, different attitude, pre-COVID to post-COVID, or will it be the same norms?
I will recruit for mindset, for attitude, not for qualifications. Because qualifications look very good, but if they are not backed up by positive attitude and positive mindset, then they have no value. I've always said positive attitude, an open mind is much more valuable than MBA. Much more. I mean, if you have an MBA who has an open and positive mind, he is a bomb. I mean, he'll be great, fantastic. But if there is a guy who's not an MBA but has a good open mind, very flexible, can adjust, can acclimatize much faster, he is really a great potential. Now, of course, if company helps him with the MBA, that will be great. So I will induct for attitude and mindset, because that is what will make the difference in future. And last but not the least, hunger to succeed. And I think hunger is coming now, I have seen in the last many years, 10 years or more, from small towns. The people, boys and girls coming from small towns, have very huge hunger to succeed. They put in their life and blood to it. So I think that is where companies will change and transform.
Yes, it will. Every crisis has shown up, actually, some companies from nowhere becoming big, and some companies, big companies, failing. This is an unprecedented crisis. I think the world has never really seen earlier. What do you see happening? Do you see the same getting accelerated?
Absolutely.
With this crisis?
Absolutely. No doubt. 3 reasons. Number one, as I said, consumer behavior is changing faster than ever. Environment is changing faster than ever. Regulations are changing faster than ever. So one is that external environment per se is changing so fast, which if you look at last 50 years has not changed so much. So that is one. Second is that the established companies unfortunately, have trained incapacities. This is what I call as the established company's culture. They have trained themselves that this is the only way to succeed, otherwise you can't succeed. And that I call as trained incapacity. That it actually gives you an incapacity, not a positive capacity, but a negative capacity. So for them to change it, and there are very few companies in the world like IBM, which change so much from hardware life to software life. And the companies have changed. I'm not saying they haven't, but it's not easy. It demands huge leadership thrust. And the third aspect is that the new companies, the new startups, are so agile. They are so comfortable to change. They're in t-shirts. They want to work 20 hours a day. They don't mind anything. They don't mind working on a shop floor. They don't mind working on backyard. You know, and they don't mind technology. They don't mind speed. They don't mind anything. So can you imagine this three-way scenario? One, the environment is changing very rapidly. Two, the established brands and established companies are slow, and they hesitate to change or they resist change. And three, the new companies and startups they love change. They love to transform the customer's behavior, the customer experience. Now, what is happening? Look at a company called Lenskart, which gives you specs and contacts and powered sunglasses. It has changed the experience of customer of buying specs. You can be in a small town and you can buy specs of your liking, and affordable specs. It's not that you're buying an expensive specs. So I'm just giving one example. There's so many such great examples. So I think what you said, that phenomena will become faster now.
See, if you are entering your career right now, Manoj, what would be your advice to new entrants? What are the three things that you think they need to keep in mind to make a great career, to become another Manoj Kohli? India needs more of you.
No, not that. I have been very blessed that I started my career in sugar. I was in Dorala Sugar Works in 41 years back. And from sugar, I have come to SoftBank. And what I have used is one weapon. And that is a weapon of constant learning and very fast learning, fast track learning. And after 50, you have to also do unlearning, because something you have learned 25, 30 years back may not be relevant today. You have to just throw it out and replace it by modern technology oriented learning. So learning and changing yourself proactively is very, very important, because if you lag behind the environment, then you're obsolete. And there are a lot of colleagues, by the way, who think they've reached to the best performance, the best learning already. Now that is a folly, because you cannot believe that. Well, the world is changing every day. New technology is coming, and technology is the biggest variable of the world, future world. And we don't understand and adjust to technology. So I feel that sustainability of career has to be looked at over decades, not over months and years. And sustainability comes from, one, the foundation of, like I had a three-level foundation of honesty, hard work, humility. These three H: honesty, hard work, humility. That was the foundation. On top of that was learning, massive learning. Every day, for example, when I joined telecom, I didn't know anything about telecom. I learned so much. I was reading so much. I'm meeting so many people. When I joined solar and wind, I was reading so much. I didn't know anything about solar energy and wind. I met so many people. I went to Europe, I went to US, met so many experts, talked to them, read so much, and at least came up to speed in a matter of 6 months. So I'm saying, I feel that if you think you are learned, then you're doomed.
True, so true.
So that is the magic.
And this, friends, is from somebody who, with 43 years of experience in the corporate world, is now pursuing his PhD. He is still continuing to invest on himself, on the learning. So that's Manoj Kohli for you. Now, 3 things that you think the CEOs of today have to unlearn.
You know, first thing is me and I. The arrogance of me and arrogance of I. Because the team will make the difference, not the CEO. Let him give all the credit to the team and take all the debits. I think that's the first thing. Second thing is hierarchy. He has to kill the hierarchy. Kill the hierarchy, make it flat.
That
Because because future organizations will not tolerate hierarchy. And that's why in Airtel, you know, whether it was Sunil or me, both of us were called by first name, even by the junior most engineer, even by a 20-year-old engineer. Never Mr., never Sir. Never. Because you can't have hierarchy. Hierarchy kills
Correct.
innovation. The third thing is bureaucracy. By that I mean bureaucracy of a standard multinational. I'm not taking a name. I'm just saying there are many, many multinationals who have reached to an extreme bureaucratic behavior, which means they are so overstructured in terms of processes and systems that they have slowed down everything. They have killed the speed of the company. The competitors can beat the company easily because it's bureaucratic. So nothing wrong with systems and processes, because any large business, billions of dollars, you need systems and processes. But you can still have speed, automation, informality. Bureaucracy is killed by informality. Even if you're very large, like in Airtel, we had thousands and thousands of employees, 50,000 employees. We still knew people by first name. You know, everyone was talking to each other, going to each other, reaching out, supporting, having lunch in the cafeteria, having dinners together, having coffee, you know, solving problems every minute. Not by structure, but by informality. Which doesn't mean that structure is not there or systems are not there. But those systems cannot own the company. People have to own the company. So these are 3 things. We leaders have to be careful.
wonderful. Last question before I pass on to Agam to quiz you further. What has helped you succeed, Manoj, to reach this level? 43 years in corporate life, different industries, very diverse challenges, yet you have faced them. And you just seamlessly move from one industry to the other. There's got to be a secret sauce. In this hard court, you have to reveal it.
No, there's no secret. It is a simple thing about good habits. Good habits which I was taught by my parents. Good habits I inculcated myself in the early part of first 5 years, 7 years of my career. Of keeping good fitness, keeping good speed, keeping simplicity, keeping learning faster, pushing myself for much more, remaining grounded, going into the problem to find a solution, deep into the problem. For example, I used to go to rural areas. I used to spend 2 weeks a month in villages and rural areas to understand how do we get rural. And we actually then went ahead of FMCG into 550,000 villages. So I'm just saying there is a solution to everything. You just need to get into it. And so I feel good habits early on in the first 5-7 years of your career generally stay with you for life. Like yoga, doing yoga in the morning, doing exercise in the morning. Every day you do those things which will sustain you for life. So frankly, there's no magic wand. It is just plain and simple discipline of good habits, which will carry you through.
That's awesome, Manoj. And now we know what's the secrets of your energy. One thing that about Manoj, he never grows old. He is still what it was. Another thing about Manoj is you'll always see him smiling. He could be facing any crisis in the world. The world may be tumbling down, but there'll always be a smile on Manoj's face. So it's wonderful. I will now pass on the stage to Agam. He is very passionate about the startup ecosystem, Manoj. With your permission, he's going to quiz you a little on that. That is very close to his heart. So over to you, Agam.
Thank you very much, Ramesh. And even more passionate is fitness. So, Manoj, I think you personify that. And one question that I had in continuation to that was, it's often said, I was asking you about healthy body is equal to healthy mind. And I know you've been doing it, for years and years. How has that helped you in staying agile and staying at the top of the game? And, what will be your, advice to, the leaders, both old and upcoming?
So I believe in one simple story, and let me tell you the story. And my answer comes from that story. Life is about a circus juggler who has 5 balls to juggle. And the 5 balls have 1 rubber ball and 4 glass balls. The rubber ball is your work, which is your profession or your business. And if it falls, it'll bounce back. It will take 6 months to bounce back, 1 year to bounce back, but it will bounce back. And the 4 glass balls are your health, number 1, your family, number 2, your friends, number 3, and your attitude or spirit, number 4. And if these glass balls fall, they will crack and you will find it very difficult to uncrack them. So the moral of the story is that live a balanced life. Health, for example, as you asked, is most important. Fitness is most important, just like breathing. And if you don't invest at least 1 hour a day on your fitness, then you will have problems. Not only physical problems, but also mental problems, decision-making problems. You won't be as calm as you should be, because remaining fit and remaining calm is very important for a leader. So that's what I do.
That's wonderful and exactly right. I think, each of those glass balls are very, very important. And I think that's where the balance is. And Manoj, to continue there, this new work from home and, everybody's been working from home, everybody is trying to manage and juggle, life, both personal and professional. What do you think, and you're rightly saying that productivity will become, 2x, 3x, 4x, with the world becoming more and more digital, in that sense. But how do you see, balance getting restored in these times? Do you see, people struggling with that balance, and do you see that may become more and more bigger problem? And what should organizations do to, kind of stay away from that?
Whether you work in office or work at home, I reach my office, which is at home, fully dressed. I'm ready at 9:15, and I'm inside my office definitely by 9:30, before 9:30, and then I come out at lunch, have lunch, and then go back. And then I'm back at 6, 7, whatever time I finish. So the discipline of office and home will continue. And there are many people who are not continuing it, who are basically doing Zoom calls. They have eyes which are fatigued. Their minds are fatigued. Because you need to come out to refresh yourself, refresh your mind and eyes. You need to go out in daylight and really maybe have a walk during lunch, maybe in the evening, maybe in the morning, whichever way you want to do it. But it's very important to have a discipline of office at home.
Great. And in fact, Manoj, the current role, where you obviously advise and mentor, a lot of these startups, it's often said that, that discipline, that need to, follow a discipline, follow a pattern is often missing. And, probably it's taken for granted sometimes that, that's the way they work. How do you see, that play a role in success and failure of some of these organizations, and what would be your advice to especially that ecosystem, Manoj, where probably this is not sometimes taken as seriously as it should be?
No, I have gone through that myself. I mean, when I've scaled up businesses, I've also had imbalanced life, but I'm conscious of that. So my role is to make them conscious of it. If they're conscious of it, that they have to balance life, then they will balance life. They won't be 10 out of 10, they may be 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10, maybe 9 out of 10. Because when you're scaling up your company, 5x, 10x, 20x, difficult to balance. It is difficult to balance. I fully appreciate that because I've gone through it myself. But if you're conscious, you do balance. And your family also is conscious that he's doing something very big. So let's support him. Let's give him that much of leeway. And so constantly running for balance is a very important phenomenon.
Sure. And, having worked, in both sides, Manoj, working with large conglomerates as well as, mentoring, the startup ecosystem, what are some of those, constants that you see which are ageless, timeless, and, which the startup ecosystem should always keep in mind? What are those, 2-3 things that you would want to advise, which irrespective of which side of the spectrum you are, will remain timeless?
Yeah, so let me tell you, the founders and the leadership team, which I interact with a lot of the startup community, are very bright people, very young, bright, passionate. They're very tech oriented. They understand the business. They understand the consumer. So this is fantastic. I think the team is great. There are a few things which they don't understand, and that is where I try to help, and organization helps. One, that they don't understand how to scale up from 1x to 2x to 5x to 10, 20x, how to scale up and how does the complexity go up when you scale up and how to manage the complexity. Because that is what the experience they don't have. And therefore, it's very important to hold their hands and help them understand the complexities. There are many regulations. There are many people-related issues. There are many leadership team-related issues. There are many marketing or branding issues. There are many business model shifts which are required. There are many consequence management issues in terms of ethics, etc., which are required. So those complexities, unfortunately, some of them have not experienced ever. So that remains a mantra which is there in any company which is scaling up fast. Now, another thing which I noticed, so let's say some of them may like to drive the car at 200 kilometers an hour, which you can drive. Of course, the car may have the speed of, maybe you can go to 200. But is that prudent to drive at 200? Because you may lose control. So maybe at 100, you still have a control and you are driving very fast and you're not wasting fuel and you still have control of the steering wheel in hand. And that is a sustainable speed, which means you can sustain 100 for a much longer period. So understanding that this is a sustainable way to grow, this is a profitable way to grow, this is a controllable way to grow is a very important thing. Because growth is not a 1 year phenomenon. Growth has to happen over 10 years, 20 years. It has to keep on happening in new ways, in new innovations. So you can't afford to burn out. And that is where I think one has to help these teams.
Sure. And one question in continuation to that, in fact, it came from one of our audiences as well. And I'll start taking a few audience questions as well, Manoj, because there are lots of them. There are almost about 100 questions that people have thrown at us. Some have already been answered during the course of our conversation, but some we'll try and cover depending how much time do we get. But it's again said that some industries, and I think some startups, Manoj, not specifically in any particular industry per se, but a lot of these startups have also taken growth as a constant. They've always assumed that growth will always be there. And these last 3-4 months have probably taught that that's not the case. Some of the businesses have really struggled, and not to their fault. So what would your advice be to build those long-term sustainable businesses, and how do you build those businesses for posterity?
No, I think these last 3 to 6 months were great opportunity to introspect. Yes, you're right, growth is permanent, but in a global lockdown or a national lockdown, you can't have growth. It's lockdown, markets are closed, customers are not buying anything. So clearly, it is a good time for you to rethink your business model. It is a good time for you to think, where are you wasting money? It is a good time to think, where is your team weak? It is a good time to think, where is the innovation slipping? It is a good time to study competition. Where is your competition outpacing you? It is a good time to study global case studies in Brazil or in US or in France or in Japan or wherever. If they are companies, young companies in the same business, how are they doing better than you? So I'm saying it's a great time to introspect. We need time to pause and reflect. Because you can't just say that every morning I have to get up and run till I fall flat, and that is growth. No. Growth has to be profitable. Growth has to be sustainable. So for that, you need to think about it. You need to reflect. You need to compare globally. You need to check out consumers. You need to check out your partners. What is your weakness, which has to be mitigated? What is your strength, which has to be further strengthened? So I'm saying these are good times to think about all this.
Right.
No,
very true. I think no, that's very clear, and I think absolutely right. Growth will happen, but one has to also take a calibrated view. And in continuation to that, one more question which came from the audience, Manoj, and I think again more relevant, to some of the companies that we talk, some of the sectors that we talked about. You spoke about financial fitness. What do you think are some of the key parameters and key drivers of financial fitness, and how relevant is that even in the startup ecosystem?
So first and foremost is your business model profitable on per unit basis?
Yeah. Right.
For example, in telecom, we said per minute and per MB. That is per unit. If you are not profitable per unit, then you had it. That is the number one. And that is the foundation of the business model. The second thing is that how much overhead cost, can that business model afford to incur. Because many companies have actually accumulated huge costs. They haven't thought about that cost has to be very efficient. Productivity standards have to be always kept as you grow. And I don't want to name a company, but I know of a company, large company, which used this time for reviewing their entire overheads and was able to reduce more than 50% of overheads, which was wastage. Because they were accumulating that wastage over the last 10, 15 years, and nobody was asking a question. So even in startups, these problems are there, you know. So,
Right.
so they are spending either benefiting the customer nor are giving you higher revenues. So these are the two tests of overhead. Is it benefiting customer? And is it giving you higher revenues? If no, then you please think about it. You have to rethink that cost and maybe eliminate that cost. So that is the second issue. Third issue is cash. How fast do you get the cash back? How's your cash cycle? And if it is not efficient, if it is not fast, then you will have problems sooner than later. You need to review the cash cycle in the business model. If the cash cycle moves faster, you get the cash back faster, then the business is far more healthy and the fitness is much higher. The next thing is about debt equity. How much do you want to take? How much can you afford to take as per your business health, as per your profitability? Never overdo leverage. Never go for higher debt than you deserve to take. Be within those norms. Every business has a different norm. Every business has a different formula. So I'm not giving a formula just now, but I'm saying whatever it is, never go beyond that. Always remain within that formula, within that threshold. Otherwise, the debt will have adverse impact on it. And last but not the least, how is the customer changing? How is the environment changing? And how you have to constantly make the business model viable. So business model is not a static phenomena. It is a phenomena which is dynamic, based on environment, based on customer expectations. So these are a few things about financial fitness.
Wonderful, Manoj. And do you also see, Manoj, as a result, and you rightly said about, being profitable at unit level economics. Do you see, models which got into a lot of cash burn as a result and, may not be profitable at unit levels? Do you think they'll find more and more difficult times ahead, keeping these learnings of last 3-4 months in mind?
No, I think all of them are very bright people. They will all understand that it's important to have a roadmap to profitability, a roadmap to positive cash flow. They will all understand. I'm sure everyone has understood. They're so smart people. Entrepreneurs, the leadership of startups, they're very good people. They're very sensitive. And if they understood, they will have a roadmap. Could be 6 months, could be whatever period, business by business, but they have to reach there.
Sure. And one more question, Manoj, again from the audience. Do you see, and this is not relevant to startups, I mean, this is, across industries, but do you see, these 3-4 months, and I think the post-COVID era probably becoming more favorable to bigger businesses, and ones which have cash on the balance sheet, ones which are, let's say, well capitalized. Do you see a scenario where big become bigger, as we go along?
Difficult to make a very broad brush statement, but you're right. Funding, well-funded businesses, whether they're big or small, will have a better time. But if you have a profitable business model, you will definitely get funding also, because global investors, India is one of the most attractive markets in the world. Business models, large market. So I don't think people will have, those businesses will have funding issue. So both small and big businesses will sustain, who have well-funded businesses and who have profitable business models.
Sure. Sure. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Manoj, for taking all these questions. And I would request Ronesh to come back in.
Thank you very much, Manoj, for this perspective. So before we sign off, we have an HR session coming up on 29th of June at 6:30 p.m. when 5 HR heads are going to be giving their perspective. You've been in the HR yourself, Manoj. What would be your advice, and what are a few things that you would think the HR people, heads should keep in mind?
I think HR people have to learn business. From HR, my biggest expectation is that they have to learn the business in great detail, and that's why, as a part of National HRD network, we are initiating a business program for all the HR managers. Because if they don't understand business, then their understanding of people is halfway house. So if you understand business deeply, then you know what to do with people, how to motivate talent, how to reskill people, how to retrain talent for something new which you're trying to do in the next 2-3 years, how to be more ethical, what kind of ethical standards you follow, what kind of no tolerance policies you have on few issues. So I'm saying HR people have to get deep into business now, and that's one of the weaknesses of HR, which it has to correct sooner than later.
Very well said. Manoj, thank you very much for sparing the time. It's been an awesome presentation, and I think we have all benefited from your wise counsel and advice, as well as a very enriched experience. May God bless you. May God ensure you remain the way you are. May you continue to guide all of us, because we need your advice, your perspective, the benefit of your experience. Thank you very much. And friends, registrations for the HR will open soon. So see you very soon on the 29th of June at 6:30 p.m. Thank you very much, Manoj. Thank you, Agam. Thank you, all the participants.
Thank
It's
you,
been
Ramesh.
a pleasure and honor.
Thank you, Agam. All the best.
Thank you so much, Manoj. Thanks, Ronesh.
Thank you,
Thanks a
Agam.
lot.